and processes in order to get what would be the best way to say this? Get the most out of the potential quality of life that she had remaining, because we started this whole thing when she was late 80s, early 90s. And so if that's your jumping off point, what are even your options, regardless of the customer's health or, their concerns. I saw some IG video, I guess a couple months back, and it was like 103-year-old lady runs a marathon. Oh, okay, great. Okay. Maybe that's, what your experience is going to be. But I think more commonly than not, you're going to see the rule and not the exception to the rule. And that 103-year-old lady running a marathon or whatever, she was just running. I don't know if it was a marathon. That is definitely the exception to the rule, I would say, by anyone's standard. And that was not the case for Ruth. Ruth had a pretty typical, I'd say all things considered, a pretty typical last season of life. And that's really what I like to speak to on these videos. Typically what you're going to see, yes, it's going to be different for everybody. It's not always going to be the same. It's all case by case. But I think that for Ruth and what you will probably experience as the caregiver or a stakeholder or whatever's bringing you to these videos, you're going to see things more commonly as the rule and not the exception to the rule. And then those areas that are exception to the rule, great, because most of the time the exception to the rule is a positive thing. So for instance, the 103-year-old lady that's running, she most likely has an overall better posture of health than what you're going to find, of course, in a typical 103-year-old. There you go. That's something to Google. Hey, how many 103-year-olds are there even left on the planet, right? I saw something, I don't remember when I saw this, but it was like about how many people from World War II were still alive, and it's like 30,000. 30,000, and someone will probably blow me up in the comments and say, actually, that's not correct. It's closer to this or that. But yeah, 30,000 left on the planet, something like that. And my understanding is that they're looking at that and they're just saying, hey, if you were even born during that season, we're going to count you, So not even people, actually, I would need to go and relook at it to make sure that I'm representing it properly here, but I don't even think they're talking about people that actually served in World War II or anything like that, just people that were alive and affected. It's a super low number. So that generation is definitely aging out. Ruth was born in 1928. My grandfather was born in, oh my gosh, I'm live and I don't know what, I have to check the slides. He was a couple years older than her. I'd say 1922. Something like that. And he was in his late 80s when he died. And if you've watched any of these videos, you know that that's what kicked off the whole thing. So in terms of Ruth needing the care that she needed, and it was a steady decline, I think that's most commonly what you're going to experience as well. So what we've been doing the last couple of live streams is just looking at questions. And really, I think that everything that I've got listed so far is a pretty good starting point. If you were going into this and you were like, man, I don't know anything about what I'm doing, you could start with that grouping of videos and at least get some sort of formulation. And so I think the questions is a good direction to move in, because for as much as you can learn, and maybe it's my channel, maybe it's another channel, whoever, it's going to be situational. It's going to be situational if it's a male that you're taking care of versus a female. It's going to be different based on their health conditions. It's going to be different based on their living environment. It's going to be based on the amount of resources, and that could be money, or it could be time. It could be several other things, just what they have access to. That's going to be different. The medications that are on is going to be different. And there's all of these nuances can make a big shift in what's actually needed for them and what you're actually able to provide for them. So I think the questions are cool because questions are speaking more specific. And a lot of the stuff that I've covered so far, we're looking straight at generally speaking. Again, the exceptions, or excuse me, the rules, not the exceptions to the rules, although I did base that off of Ruth, and I'm sure if we, ran statistics on it, we could say, actually, in this one situation, she was the exception to the rule. Okay, great. I concede that. So let me go and throw up the slide here, and we'll get to our question today. There we go. Here we go. So today's question is, are there any specific safety upgrades or technology you'd recommend? Any specific safety upgrades or technology you'd recommend for creating a more secure environment for an elderly loved one living at home? That's a really good question. So are there any specific safety upgrades? And again, I'll start off by just repeating what I just said a moment ago. This is going to be situationally dependent. Some people are going to need more things than others. Some people aren't going to need anything, at least to start, and then some people it might be an evolution into like what's needed, and there might even be like a full-on, the first 6 months might just be a full discovery phase. No one even knows how this person is living, that's a very common thing that you'll see with the elderly who are still at home is they get visitors every once in a while and they take phone calls, but in terms of how they're living their day-to-day life, that might not be known or something that's openly known, and there might need to be an entire set of weeks or months that are put together in order for you to get a better evaluation of that. Safety upgrades, technology. I tell you what, I'll start with some technology things. First off, what you're going to find is there's a lot of people in this age group who are going through this. Bro, they ain't got internet, okay? They ain't got no internet. You got to get internet at the house. I'm saying it like, yeah, you got to. But like, if that person is going to stay there, and I've talked about this in other videos, if they're going to stay there and they're expecting other people to come in and assist and spend amounts of time there, you have to, you're going to look at all the infrastructure, and we talked about that, but specifically the most common thing that you're going to find that they don't have, because everyone, or again, the rule, maybe not the exception, you could have Grandpa Gerald who lives in, rural part of whatever state, and, Grandpa Gerald, he never got indoor plumbing, but that's obviously going to be an exception to the rule. You're going to find people that have electricity, they have power, they have sewage, they have everything that is a part of the modern construct of infrastructure for a living space outside of internet, because internet's the new utility, that's over the last 20, 30 years. But you're looking at this customer, and they were probably already 60 when the very first generation of the internet hit, and and they were already in a process where the world was starting to pass them by, or they just weren't able to keep up with emerging technologies. It happens. Well, I won't say it happens to everybody, but it happens to a lot of people. I know people, maybe not their generation, because my grandma's a part of the greatest generation right in there, but the baby boomers. I know a couple of baby boomers where the CD, okay, that's as far as they're along in their music and audio technology. They CD, and they got a CD player, and that's it. And if they go look at a car, one of their big questions is does it have a CD player, right? And we obviously know that the world has moved past that. And, when the CD player came out, you're essentially what the person looking for a tape player was now, right? If you're looking at a CD player, is it a 6-disc changer? Okay, because those are important, right? Okay, so you're going to want to at least have that minimum of an infrastructure there from a technology standpoint. And then from there, with everything else, you can also branch out and do a lot of other modernization just based off of that. Let's say, and look, this is a deep conversation you're going to want to have with the customer, but look at how cheap video security has become over the last 10 years. For a couple $100, you can get an entire suite of video cameras and audio and have that implemented at your place or at the customer's place connected to the internet, which not only does the job that the previous generation did, which was to surveil and record and but it's accessible from anywhere. So you don't even have to be there. This is the big thing that Life Alert used to do, or still does. Actually, Ruth had Life Alert at one point. We can talk about that in another video, or maybe I end up rolling over and speaking more about that. But the thing with Life Alert was the individual is home alone and they've fallen. You know, that was the famous phrase that was younger society kind of looked at as comical, right? But the phrase was, I've fallen and I can't get up, which, to their credit and to the understanding of a customer that's in this season, hey, that's like the number one risk of the elderly is falling. It's not, you know, there's other risk and et cetera, but falling is the number one risk, right? So I've fallen and I can't get up. Even now, as I've gotten older, just wrapping my mind around that, can you imagine falling and you can't get up? What a disaster. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, what a terrible place to be in, okay? And to be alone in that moment, right? And that's what Life Alert did. It gave you a little sensor, or not a sensor, but a button that you would wear around your neck that would connect to a master host. Essentially, it was connected to the phone line and so you could press that, and they could their service would dispatch the police and the rescue squad and the fire department, whatever was needed for the situation, right? It was great. And now, with something like the new revolution of video cameras and stuff, you can do that and connect it to the internet. And yeah, it won't be something automated like Life Alert, and it wouldn't be the customer necessarily that is the one triggering it, but you could check in at any point. So maybe you've got it where, like, hey, the customer is going to be alone for 5 or 6 hours, and I'm just going to check in every hour just to make sure that everything's okay. Boom, you could do that. And then you can see if there's an issue, and then you can contact whoever. It could be another stakeholder, another loved one, could be a neighbor, anyone else to go actually check on the customer if there is an issue that arises. Wow. Team, it's never been like that in the history of humanity. What a revolutionary tool. Okay, but all of that starts based off of your internet connectivity. You're going to want to have that. Plus, it's extremely difficult to ask people in, this day and age, especially younger people, to come and spend time and to not have that kind of connectivity. And that used to be one of the ways that I would present stuff to different caretakers that we had, is like, hey, listen, this is her routine. We need you to come from noon to 4 o'clock, 1 to 4 o'clock, whatever it is. She's going to need to eat in there, right? Because noon, lunchtime, and She might need to go to the bathroom and stuff, so there will be some actionable things that you can do. But hey, bring your iPad, bring your laptop for the rest of the time, and work on whatever you want to work on. Watch YouTube videos. That's totally cool. We just need someone to be here with her and have that presence with her. And there's a lot of downtime. You got to have internet. So that's one of the technology upgrades that is heavily recommended. I'm not saying that this can't be done without that, but it is heavily recommended. And it's, as I'm on the fly here answering this question, it's difficult for me to imagine a scenario where you wouldn't want it or need it. And again, maybe it's an availability issue. Maybe the customer lives way out in the sticks and there isn't anything available, or they only have dial-up available or something, even though I cannot tell you the last time I even heard of someone only having access to dial-up. I mean, I think that there's many different ways around that now, especially with Starlink. So it would be more expensive, of course, but there are solutions out there. Okay, look into that. Second part of the question, which was presented as the first part of the question, specific safety upgrades. Okay, specific safety upgrades, I would start with the bathroom. A lot of stuff that you can see, and again, this is, dependent on the condition of the customer, what issues that they've got and they're facing. Starting with the bathroom, It's very common for rails to be installed where the toilet is so that the customer has something to grab onto as they stand up and sit down. Same thing for the shower. Also, again, as I was just saying, falling is the number one risk for elderly. So make sure that all of those surfaces that have water that they either get wet frequently or have the potential to get wet have some sort of grip on them, okay? And that could be in the form of mats, or actually mats would probably be the easiest solution, but doesn't mean that it has to be that way. But you're going to want to absolutely protect against that and lower that risk surface, okay, that they could potentially fall or injure themselves. So starting there, and then around the house in general, yeah, I mean, you could do all the things that you do with childproofing stuff if you think that that's necessary. But it's a different, they're two separate things. Childproofing and like adult safety are two separate things. The cabinet where you keep all of the cleaning products. Now, what are the chances that the elderly individual, and yes, they could be suffering from something mentally, and if that's the case, we've talked about that in a different video, especially if it's Alzheimer's. The recommendation from this channel is to seek professional help. That is a completely different world to be in than what we mainly discuss here. But the chances of them going in there and they got into the bleach or some sort of insect spray or something like that, I think are extremely low, and I think that they're so low that they're marginal and no action is needed except for the very rare exception, right? But there might be other places where they frequent and spend time, and you're going to want to put items in place that might be able to help them in that regard. So Ruth spent a lot of time on the couch. We did not have any kind of rails or anything in place there because of the way everything was set up. But if that had been an option, we would have put it in there, so you can do that. And even if there might be a furniture upgrade that's needed as well, so if they've got the old chair and grandpa's been in this chair, they use this chair for 50 years and that's where they like to sit and they die. Hey, it might be time to change, okay? I understand sentimental value and all of that, but if there's a better solution out there that's going to help them get in and out and, again, shrink that risk surface, you've got to move in that direction, okay? Don't take my word for it, right? Ask around in the professional elderly care community. I'm sure that they would agree with that. So looking at those kind of things and using a lot of common sense in that regard, if you see something and it can be upgraded or made in a way that is safer, absolutely do that. One other thing is I'd recommend, especially as the customer begins to lose their ability for mobility, right? Make sure they have shoes on. Have shoes on them whenever they're moving, or socks with some sort of grips on it. You can get those thick socks with the bottoms on where they totes. I don't know. I'm not promoting them. I'm just that's what I'm. And hey, unless they want to sponsor my channel, but something like that's got some sort of grip surface on it. Because even though maybe the living room is carpet and the bedroom is carpet and most of the rooms are carpet, the chance that your kitchen's carpet, I know some people do it, it's low. The chance that your bathroom's carpet, I know some people do it, it's low. You are going to have surfaces that could potentially, that are slick or could potentially be slick or could potentially have the chance to get wet and make them slicker than what they already are. So try and mitigate against that. All right, I hope that was helpful and that answered some questions or some thoughts that you have. Let me see if I can get my last slide up here. Is it up? No, it's not, but you can see it, guys. You know me. I always throw it up at the end of these videos. You can look at another video if you need to see it bigger. If you got any questions, message them to me or email to them is a better thing, or put it here in the comments on this video. Bada bing, bada boom. I am out, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you for watching. Bye.